A boy sits on the exam table, legs swinging above the floor, eyes fixed on something far past the pale blue wall. His hand hangs loose at his side, fingers stained a faint gray from old pencil marks. The air smells like alcohol wipes and plastic. Dr. Allison Moore waits. It is the third time this week. Different child, same posture, same empty page between them. "All right," Allison says softly. "Just draw what you see." The boy blinks, slow and heavy. His right hand rises as if pulled by a string. The pencil touches the paper. Lines appear. Then a second, half broken, with narrow slits that might be windows. Bridges reach between them like flat ribs. Stairs twist down, step after step, vanishing into dark water. He does not pause to think. He does not erase. The shapes flow out of him with cold certainty. A thin red line leaks from his nose. Allison leans forward. "Sam," she says, "you're bleeding." She reaches for a tissue. The monitors behind him chirp. The quantum-assisted neural scanner above the boy's head flashes streams of data. Deep inside his brain, something lights up in tight, pulsing patterns. Not like normal dreaming. Not like any seizure she has seen. The boy's hand keeps moving. There it is again, the broken archway, half buried, sitting at the edge of dark waves. The same circle against 3 sharp lines carved into its face. The symbol she has seen 24 times this month. He finishes with a swift final stroke. The pencil falls from his fingers. His shoulders sag. "All done," he says in a flat voice. Allison presses the tissue to his nose and slides the drawing from the table. She adds it to the growing stack in her folder, each page heavy with the same drowned streets, the same towers, the same broken archway. None of these children know each other. They live in different states, different schools, different lives. The neural scanner pings again. Data uploads to the analysis system upstairs. Thousands of kilometers to the south, in low Earth orbit, a satellite passes over Antarctica. Its sensors cut through fog and cloud, past fractured ice and black water. A fresh section of seafloor comes into view, newly exposed by melting shelves. On its screen, a grid sharpens. Rectangles, towers, the faint trace of bridges. And there, amid broken forms, an archway with a circle and 3 lines. Hours later, a blurred, urgent image appears on Allison's workstation. She compares it to the boy's drawing, her heart pounding in her throat. The match is too close to be chance. Her inbox begins to fill with new alerts from other hospitals, new drawings, new nosebleeds. The city is not staying still. It is growing. The first report arrives on a rainy Tuesday. Allison is halfway through her second coffee, scanning overnight data from the neural lab, when a flagged message flashes on her tablet. Subject: unusual recurring imagery in pediatric patients from Dr. Lena Chang, Seattle Children's. Attached are 5 simple drawings. Even at a glance, Allison feels her stomach tighten. Towers, bridges, narrow steps going down into dark water. She taps the next message. This one is from a clinic in Atlanta. Then another, from a hospital in Denver. Each email carries the same nervous tone, the same question. "Are you seeing this too?" She leans back in her chair, staring at the images tiled across the screen. Every drawing looks like it was traced from a hidden original. Some are shaky and light, drawn by small, unsure hands. Others are sharp and almost perfect, like maps. And every page has a child's name at the bottom. Moore? She looks up. Tom Alvarez, a neurotech from down the hall, stands in her doorway, holding a thin folder and a tablet. "You've got to see this," he says. "This is from Maine. The file just came in through the research network. They asked for your review." He slides the tablet across her desk. A girl named Kayla has sketched the same angled towers, the same crowded bridges. Her note is scrawled at the top. "This is where I go when I fall asleep, but I'm still awake." Allison feels a small old fear stir in her chest, a child saying almost the same words she once said at 9 years old, sitting on the edge of her own bed, trying to explain her night terrors to parents who did not know what to do. "Same basic layout," Tom says quietly. Same symbol over the arch. He flips open the folder. Inside is a printout of brain scan data. And this, he adds, tapping the graph, is not normal. The chart shows heavy activation deep in the medial temporal lobe and further inward, in regions most systems still label as unknown. Significance. The peaks are clean and rhythmic, unlike random dream bursts. How many kids? Allison asks. In this packet? 8, but the shared network report says 16 across the system in the last 10 days. Tom hesitates. Plus the 3 you saw this week. 19. Allison looks back at the drawings filling her screen. She knows how kids copy a meme, how a horror story circulates in a school and spreads. But these children live thousands of kilometers apart. Some do not even have home internet access, according to intake forms. Any links? She asks. Travel, family history, shared meds, anything? Not yet. Tom shrugs. Different states, different income levels, different languages at home. Get me contact info, she says. I want to talk to the centers that reported the earliest cases. And I want full neural data on every child you can get. Deep resolution. Full-time series. Tom nods and heads out. On her screen, the broken archway seems to stare back. 2 days later, Allison stands in a small clinic in rural Maine, smelling damp coats and floor cleaner. The exam room is plain. A cartoon whale on the wall, a metal cart with worn-out supplies. Outside the frosted window, snow falls in slow, steady flakes, even though the calendar says late April. Weather charts say this region should be warming, but the world has its own plans now. Thank you for coming all this way, says Dr. Patel, the local pediatrician. She looks tired. I didn't know who else to call. When I saw the network bulletin and your name on it, I'm glad you did, Allison says. She means it. They step into the room. A thin 11-year-old boy sits on the table, swinging his boots. He has light brown hair and sharp blue eyes. A heavy winter jacket is piled beside him. Evan, Dr. Patel says. This is Dr. Moore. She came from Boston. She studies brains, especially kids' brains. That sounds gross, Evan says, but there is a small smile at the corner of his mouth. Allison smiles back. Only the part on the screen, she says. The real thing stays right where it belongs. His mother sits in the corner, hands wrapped around a chipped mug. She looks worried, worn in that special way parents get when they have been watching and not sleeping. Can you tell me what happens? Allison asks Evan, pulling up a chair so she's at his eye level. It's like a dream, he says, but I'm awake. Do you feel scared? He shakes his head. Not really. At first I did. The water is really dark, but now it just feels normal. He pauses, searching for words. Like going back, he says. Back where? He frowns. Home, I guess. But it's not home. I don't live there. I just know it. Allison takes out a clean pad of paper and a pencil. If it's okay, I'd like you to draw what you see, she says. As much as you remember. He gives a tiny shrug. I don't have to remember, he says. It's all just there. He takes the pencil. As soon as the tip touches the page, his gaze slips away. His eyes go slightly unfocused, as if he's watching something just over her shoulder. Lines form, fast, confident. A tower with sharp edges, leaning as if under some old pressure, another with its top half gone. Broken bridges, broken streets. And there, that arch. Allison watches his face. His jaw is relaxed. His breathing is steady. Then a red drop slides from his nose to the paper, blooming over a small drawn staircase. Hold still, she says gently. He blinks and looks down in surprise. Oh, it does that sometimes. How often? She asks, passing him a tissue. Only when I go deep, he says. The easy way he says it makes the back of her neck prickle. She asks more questions. How long the episodes last. When they started. The first time, he says, was about a month ago. Right after watching a news report about sudden ice melt in Antarctica. Did the news show this city? She asks. He shakes his head. No, just white stuff breaking off. And black water. The city is under the water, not the ice. It's been there. He squints, counting on his fingers, then gives up. A long time. How do you know? He looks at her for the first time in a way that makes her feel studied. Because I remember, he says. I remember walking there. But it wasn't me. He taps his chest. Not this me. By late afternoon the next day, Allison is in El Paso, Texas, feeling dry heat press against the hospital windows. The sky is a harsh, clear blue. Dust hangs in the air. The girl in the exam room is 12, with short, dark hair and bright, steady eyes. A black hoodie hangs off her shoulders. Her name is Riley Sanchez. Mom says you're from Boston, Riley says as Allison enters. Long trip. I had good music, Allison says. How are you feeling? Fine, Riley shrugs. Just tired of people asking if I'm crazy. You're not crazy, Allison says at once. Well, I draw a city that doesn't exist, in a place I've never been, Riley says. And I get nosebleeds and feel like I'm falling even when I'm sitting down, so it's not exactly boring. Allison likes her already. She sets the same pad of paper on the rolling tray and hands over a pencil. Can you show me? She asks. Riley rolls her eyes but nods. Sure. You going to hook me up to that mind camera thing? In Boston, yes, Allison says. Today, I just want to see this. Riley starts to draw. Her lines are straighter than Evan's, sharper, more like technical sketches. She marks out blocks of buildings, tilted as if the ground under them has slipped. She adds marks on the sides of towers, like bands. She draws long platforms sweeping between buildings like sky bridges, then small stairs dropping straight down from them into dark shapes that must be water. When she draws the archway, her hand slows. The symbol is more detailed here. A circle with 3 lines. Yes, but also tiny marks around the circle, like ticks on a clock. What is that symbol? Allison asks. It's on a lot of things there, Riley says. Doors, machines. It feels like she searches for the word, like a name. Whose? The cities, she says, or the people's, or maybe the thing underneath it. The thing underneath what? Allison asks. Riley glances at her, then looks away. Can I ask you something? She says. Of course. Do you ever feel like you don't fit in your own body? Riley asks. Like your memories are too big for your head. The room seems to tilt around Allison for a moment. She hears her own 8-year-old voice, years ago, saying something so close to that. Sometimes Allison says quietly, when I was your age, I used to wake up from bad dreams and feel like I was too full, like there were pieces of a life I never lived. What did you dream about? Riley asks. Allison hesitates. Dark water, she says, and something bright below it that I could never reach. Riley looks at her in a slow, measuring way. Then, with a small, calm voice, she says, it's not bright anymore. A drop of blood slides from her nose and lands near the drawn symbol. She wipes it away with the back of her hand before Allison can pass a tissue. It's okay, Riley says. It doesn't hurt. It just means it's close. It? Allison asks. The city, Riley says, or the thing that remembers the city. I'm not sure. Back in Boston, 3 days later, Allison stands in the dim light of the neuro lab. A ring-shaped scanner hangs over a bed like a silent metal crown. On the bed, Evan lies back, small head cradled in foam, eyes closed. In the next room, walls of monitors glow with live data. Comfortable? She asks over the intercom. Yeah, he says. His voice comes through slightly tinny. It's like a spaceship. Try to relax. If you start to see anything, just describe it. I always see it, he says. It's right there when I close my eyes. On the other side of the glass, Tom watches the screens. Lines of color flare across black backgrounds, mapping power shifts in Evan's brain 100 times per second. All right, Allison says. We're starting the active phase. The scanner hums as quantum sensors lock into place. At first, Evan's brain looks like any child's at rest. Soft, mild waves. Normal. Then his voice changes. I'm at the top of the stairs, he says calmly. the waters below. It smells old, like metal and salt. Allison watches as deep regions in his brain light up in sharp, organized bursts. The hippocampus, yes, but also areas even deeper, zones that often only spark with intense memory retrieval or near-death experiences. "What do you see now?" she asks. "There's a bridge," he says. "It's broken on one side. I can see the tower with the big crack. The sky is dark. There's no sun, but it's not night either." Tom leans in. "Look at this," he says under his breath. On a separate screen, a pattern comparison tool overlays Evan's brain activity against a growing database from other children who have had similar episodes. "Synchrony," Tom says. "We're up to 93% match with the girl from Denver during her last episode. Same internal timing, same deep region sequence." "That's not possible," Allison says, but the data does not care. "Now there's a sound," Evan says suddenly. Like a song, but not pretty. It's in the water, it's under the city." His breathing speeds up. The scanners show his heart rate rise. The deep clusters surge. "Okay, Evan," she says gently. "I want you to come back now. Think about your room. Think about your bed. Think about your dog." "I don't want to go," he says. It gets clearer every time, like it's waking up. A thin red line appears at his nostril. It grows and slides toward his lip. "We're stopping the active phase," Allison says quickly. "Pulse down to passive. Now." The hum changes pitch. The lights inside the ring soften. Evan blinks his eyes open. "Did you get it?" he asks. "Yes," Allison says, though she is not sure what it is. By the end of the week, Boston Children's has a full panel of data from 10 kids. Brain scans, genetic samples, family histories. Allison sits with a team from the pattern analysis group in a dark room full of silent machines. On the central display, a 3D cluster of points floats like a glowing cloud. Each dot is a child's brain pattern during an episode. Alone, the dots mean little. Together they form lines, shapes, each child locking into the same strange rhythm, the same deep brain song. Neural synchronization index at 95%, the analyst says. Across different ages, different scanners, and different times of day. "How often do you see numbers like that?" Allison asks. "In identical twins doing the same task in the same room," the analyst says. "Sometimes, in strangers spread across the country who have never met." "Never." Tom taps another panel. "We match the structure in their drawings against global terrain data," he says. "Topography, city grids, satellite imagery. Most hits are false positives. Random lines that look like towers if you squint. But this," he pulls up 2 images side by side. On the left, a detailed overlay made from dozens of combined drawings. On the right, a fresh composite from a polar orbit satellite that passed over Antarctica 3 days ago. Gray towers under thin layers of ice and water, long shapes that could be streets, a broken archway half buried in silt, and the angle of everything, the way the streets lean, the way the platforms end, matches down to a few degrees. "We cross-checked with the International Geodata Hub," Tom says. "This section was just mapped with new quantum radar. No human has been down there. No public images yet. The raw feed only hit our servers 12 hours ago. But these drawings," Allison says, flipping through printouts, "go back at least 3 weeks." "Yeah," Tom says. "So either someone hacked the planet's best ice-penetrating satellite and decided to prank us by teaching a bunch of kids the same fake city." He trails off. "Or," Allison asks softly, "or something in their heads is older than this scan," he says. Silence sits in the room. "What does the International Hub say?" Allison asks at last. "They notice the pattern too," Tom says. "You're not the only team getting these drawings. They want a full task force. Neuroscience, genetics, archaeology, AI analysis. Antarctica is about to become very crowded." Allison looks up at the Antarctic map glowing on the wall. A red circle marks the region of interest. A patch of newly opened water and broken ice, larger than some countries. "I want live data from McMurdo as soon as they send anything," she says. "And I want full consent to keep scanning every child we're tracking during episodes." "That may be a hard sell," the analyst says. Parents are already nervous. There's talk online about mind control, shared dreams, end times. You know how it goes. Then we tell the truth, Allison says. We don't know what this is yet. We only know it is real. Her tablet buzzes. A new message appears from an Antarctic research contact she has never met. Subject: urgent, structural match confirmed detachment, submerged city, Antarctic region 14A. She opens it. The image that fills her screen is sharper than any before. It shows a row of tall, narrow towers buried below ice, tilted as if frozen mid-fall. Between them, the shadow of a broad stairway descends into darkness. Her skin goes cold. In her mind, a younger version of herself stands at a window, staring out into a dark, endless sea that she only ever saw in dreams. "Are you okay?" Tom asks. "If this is a prank," she says, voice thin. "It's a very late, very cruel joke on me personally." On the second monitor, a live feed of new drawings uploads from a hospital in Chicago. More towers, more arches, but also something new. A tall central spire rising from the middle of the drowned city. None of the satellite images show it yet. Allison feels a strange, quiet certainty settle over her. "This started before we noticed," she says, "and it's not stopping." She looks at the frozen, drowned shapes under Antarctic ice, and at the swelling stack of drawings on her desk. "So the question is," she says softly, "who is remembering what?" The meeting room in Geneva feels too bright. Floor-to-ceiling windows look out over a hazy lake and distant snow-capped mountains. A ring of flags lines the far wall, colors dull in the filtered light. The world gathered in cloth. Inside, the air hums with whispered translation. Screens glow around a circular table. Names and roles hover above each person. Neuroscience, genetics, cryosphere studies, archaeology, quantum systems, risk analysis. Allison's tag reads, Pediatric Neuroscience, United States. A woman at the center of the room taps a tablet. Her label says, Chair, Global Memory Anomaly Task Force. "We all know why we're here," the chair says. The same submerged structure appears in the private drawings of children across at least 12 countries. Brain scan patterns during these episodes match at rates we do not see outside very tight controlled studies. And now orbital data confirms a physical site under Antarctic ice and water that fits these drawings. She pauses. A city grid rotates in the air above the table, built from merged satellite data and sonar sweeps. It hangs, gray and sharp, over a spinning blue-white globe. The public does not know the full extent yet, the chair continues. They see news about strange dreams and coincidences. We are here to decide how to respond to something that does not fit any normal category. She turns to Allison. "Dr. Moore," she says, "your team supplied some of the clearest neural data. Please summarize your findings." Allison stands, smooths her jacket, and taps her projector patch. The shared city grid shrinks. In its place appear stacked graphs and false color brain maps. "Across all recorded episodes," she says, keeping her voice steady and simple, "we see near-identical activity patterns in deep brain, areas associated with long-term memory and sense of self." She highlights the medial temporal lobes, the hippocampus, and then regions deeper, closer to the brainstem. These areas light up in a sequence that is almost the same from child to child, she says. What changes is only the strength, not the order. During these episodes, the children report clear, stable imagery. They can describe the same city layout in rich detail while it happens. They are not confused. They are, in fact, lucid. She brings up a time chart. "Here in blue is a normal dream cycle for a child of similar age," she says. "Fragmented, shifting activity. In red is one of our cases. Smooth, repeating pulses, as if something is reading from a very stable source." A man from the AI group raises a hand. "Like reading from stored data," he says. "A hard drive." As an analogy, yes, Allison says. Another hand rises, this from the genetic side. "Could this be some form of mass psychogenic event?" the woman asks. "Shared stress, global anxiety about climate change and the poles, playing out in similar images." "We considered that," Allison says, "but the brain scans do not look like stress responses, and the match between the drawings and the Antarctic site is too tight and appeared before any of the key images were made public." She taps again. The drowned city appears once more, this time half-drawn, half-mapped. As far as we can measure, she says, these children are not inventing. They are recalling. Recalling what hangs unspoken. The chair nods. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Now Dr. Verma, genetics. Dr. Verma, a tall man with gray hair pulled back neatly, stands and brings up a new set of graphs. We sequenced the full genomes of 42 affected children across 7 countries, he says. Then we compared them to existing global baselines. A double helix spins above the table, sections lighting up in green. In all 42, he continues, we found a cluster of markers on chromosome 11 that appear in less than 3% of the general population. These markers have no known link to disease or normal traits. Until now, they were just part of the gray zone of genetic noise. He zooms in. Tiny bands glow. What surprised us, he says, is that in brain tissue models grown from cells carrying these markers, we see an increased capacity for long-term pattern storage in glial networks, not just in neurons, but in the support cells around them. A low murmur moves around the room. So, asks a man from the policy group, what does that mean for those of us who don't grow brains in jars for fun? It means, Dr. Verma says patiently, these children's brains may be built to hold and retrieve large-scale patterns in a way most brains are not. Not just memories from their own lives, but something else. He looks at Allison. You called them inherited memory records in your initial note, he says. It is not a bad term. You are suggesting Lamarckian inheritance, asks a stern woman from the European delegation. Experiences passing through DNA. That is not how biology works. In the simple sense, no, Dr. Verma says. You do not pass down. I ate an apple on Tuesday at noon. But complex species do pass down certain learned tendencies and fears. There are old studies on mice that suggest fear of specific smells can be encoded in germ cells under strong enough conditions. He switches to a slide showing branching family trees. If a prior population had a way to compress experiences into stable patterns, he says, these patterns might be carried forward like any other trait, dormant, waiting, until something in the environment matches a trigger and turns them on. The something being a drowned city under Antarctic ice, says the chair dryly. Or what lies in that city, Dr. Verma replies. The archaeology lead, a woman with dark eyes and a lined face, clears her throat. May I? She asks. The chair nods. Current sonar and deep radar reads show a planned settlement, the archaeologist says. Grids of towers, radial streets, clear use of geometry. This is not a random rock formation. She brings up age estimates from ice layers and sediment. We date the top layers of the site to at least 5 million years old, she says. Probably older. That puts it before modern humans, before most known hominids. If this was made by anything related to us, it resets our timeline. If it was not, then we are dealing with a non-human intelligence that used design principles we now recognize. The room goes very quiet. Are you saying we're looking at an alien city? Asks someone from Risk Analysis. I am saying we do not know, the archaeologist says calmly, but the children's drawings show structures we cannot yet see in our scans. Internal chambers, a central tower, devices. If those prove to exist, then we must face the question, how did details of this place end up in the heads of our children? Allison feels the weight of eyes on her. She stays silent. The chair looks around the table. McMurdo Station is expanding access to the site as we speak, she says. Submersible drones are being prepped. Human teams will follow. We will know more in weeks. A map of Antarctica appears, zooming in on a region of broken ice and dark water. In the meantime, the chair continues. Our task is twofold. First, to study the children in a way that is safe for them. Second, to guide global response if this connection grows stronger. She glances at Allison. Dr. Moore, would you be willing to join the McMurdo science team as our lead on pediatric neural effects? The floor might as well drop away under Allison's feet. Antarctica, the last place she ever expected to go. The place that has started to fill her patients' drawings and her dreams. Yes, she hears herself say, you'll go. McMurdo Station smells like diesel, salt, and cold metal. As Allison steps off the transport plane onto hard-packed ice, the wind cuts straight through her thick jacket. The sky is a flat gray lid. Snow and ice stretch in every direction, broken by the low shapes of buildings and tall antenna masts. A woman in a bright orange parka jogs up, goggles pushed on top of her head. "Dr. Moore," she calls. "That's me," Allison says, pulling her hood tighter. "I'm Dr. Hana Ito," the woman says, shaking her hand in a quick, firm grip. "I lead the underwater operations. Come on, let's get you out of this wind." Inside the main building, the air is warmer, but still carries the tang of fuel and wet coats. Screens along the walls show live feeds from drones, weather maps, and logistics tables. People move quickly, voices low but tense. "You picked an interesting week," Hana says as they walk. The ice shelf above Sector 14A calved again. Open water window is wider now. Good for us, bad for the world. She pushes open a heavy door. They step into a control room, where 3 large displays show grainy underwater images. The view rocks slightly as a submersible drone moves through dark, near-freezing water. Allison steps closer. The light from the screens washes her face in pale blue. On the central screen, a tower looms into view. It is taller than any building in Boston, its sides worn and scored by ages of ice and current. Strange horizontal bands circle it, some broken, some intact. It is almost exactly what the children drew. "We call that Tower Theta," Hana says. "Creative, I know. There are at least 12 major vertical structures in this cluster. The tallest might be over 300 meters. The drone glides past a jagged edge where the tower has cracked. Beyond it, a broad staircase angles down into shadow." Allison's hands curl into fists. "How deep are we?" she asks. "About 800 meters below the original ice surface," Hana says. 200 below current sea level. Pressure's a beast. But the drones like it. On another screen, lines of data scroll. Temperature, salinity, sonar returns, radiation levels, all within strange, but not impossible ranges. "We've anchored a floating platform above the main access point," Hana says. "From there, drones like this one descend through a melt shaft. Human divers will follow after we map safe paths." "Have you seen anything unusual?" Allison asks slowly, beyond the towers and streets. Hana gives her a quick sideways glance. "Define unusual." "Devices, symbols, anything like this." Allison pulls out a folded print of Riley's drawing, pointing to the broken arch and the circle with 3-line symbol. Hana's eyes widen just a little. "Come," she says, leading Allison to a smaller side station. She types quickly, pulls up a still frame, and drags it onto the main screen. The image shows a massive archway, half buried in silt. Its stone or metal is dark, lit only by the drone's narrow beams. At its center, faint but clear, is a carved symbol, a circle, 3 lines. No one on the drone team knew what to call it. Allison's mouth is dry. "When was this taken?" she asks. 36 hours ago, Hana says. "We haven't even finished cataloging all the frames. Does anyone else here know that symbol matches what the kids are drawing?" Allison asks. "Just me," Hana says. "I saw the draft report from Geneva before I came back out on the last flight. I recognized it. Why didn't you tell the whole crew?" Allison asks. "Because I want them to keep their heads," Hana says bluntly. "People down here are already on edge. Strange cities under ice. Weird satellite data. Now a global childhood dream plague. If they start thinking this place can see into their families' minds, not ideal for focus." Allison cannot argue. "You'll be staying in the main block for now," Hana says. "We've set up a neural relay so you can route your scanner data directly to Geneva too. We also have a video link with the major hospitals following these kids." "Good," Allison says, "because something is changing in them." "Changing how?" Hana asks. "The episodes are getting longer," Allison says, "more vivid. And they seem to be lining up in time. Kids in different time zones reporting the same new details within minutes of each other, as if they're getting the same update." Hana whistles softly. "Synchronized dreams," she says. "That's comforting." On the screen, the drone moves toward the base of the broken arch. Beyond it, darkness thickens. "We're planning a descent into the interior," Hana says. "There are gaps between rubble pillars. that look like entrances, first with drones, then, we'll see. Can I see the mapped layout so far? Allison asks. Hannah brings up a wireframe grid overlaying the drone path. The city takes shape in glowing lines, towers, streets, what might be plazas or plaza's ghosts. Toward the center is a blank area, a gap where signals weaken and sonar goes strange. The kids keep drawing something there, Allison says quietly. She points to the blank, the supposed central tower. Here. We know, Hannah says, but our instruments start acting up whenever we get too close. Short glitches, sensor resets, could be pressure issues, could be our own nerves, or something built to last, Allison says. That night, in her narrow bunk, Allison lies awake listening to the soft hum of generators and the distant crack of shifting ice. The room is small, a bed, a metal shelf, a desk holding her tablet, and a small, framed photo of her younger self with her parents on a beach, all smiles before the worst of the coastal floods. Her tablet chimes. She sits up and taps the alert. Live session, Boston Children's. Subject, Riley Sanchez. Remote. Allison plugs in a small earpiece and accepts the link. The screen fills with split views. Riley's face in a hospital bed back home, sensors on her forehead, live brain maps, a clock. Riley, Allison says. Riley looks tired but calm. Hey Doc, she says. They said you're at the ice place. I am, Allison says. How are you feeling? Like my head's buzzing, Riley says. I think it's starting again. Okay, Allison says, just like before. If you see the city, tell us what changes, if anything. Got it, Riley says. She closes her eyes. The brain map beside her face shows soft activity at first. Then the now familiar deep pulses start. In Geneva, in Boston, in 3 other labs, scientists lean closer to their screens. I'm at the stairs, Riley says softly. But it's different. How? Allison asks. There is light, Riley says. Not from above, from below. The water is glowing a little, blue and green, like it's waking up. Can you see the central tower? Allison asks. Riley's eyes move under her lids. Yes, she says. It's taller than before. Or I can see more of it. There are lines on it, like veins. On the feed from Chicago, another child starts a drawing without being asked. In Mexico City, a boy begins to cry in his sleep, muttering about lights in the deep. Timestamps match almost exactly. A voice from Geneva reports into the shared call, episodes starting within a 60-second window. Something tightens in Allison's chest. The same update, arriving like a shared broadcast. What about the symbol? She asks. The circle with 3 lines. It's inside now, Riley says. Not just on doors. It's in the air. Like a shape that's also a sound. Her brain patterns spike, and for a moment the deep zones in. Her map light up in a pattern that does not match anything in the database. A new form. Increased synchrony across all monitored children, someone says. 98%. This is a new phase. Riley's nose bleeds, a thin red line glinting under hospital light. The city is remembering us, she says in a small, faraway voice. Or maybe it's the other way around. Her pulse jumps. Alarms beep on the Boston end. End active monitoring, Allison says sharply. Bring her out. The techs move in. Riley's eyes flutter open. That was intense, she says, blinking. You did great, Allison says. Get some rest. We'll talk again soon. The call ends. The bunk room is quiet again, but Allison's mind is not. She opens a new file and types a phrase. Working hypothesis. Children are accessing stored memory patterns from drowned Antarctic city. Structure unknown. Possible biological or technological basis. She hesitates, then adds, patterns seem adaptive, not static. She stares at the words. If the memories are changing as the children look at them, then whatever lies under the ice is not just a dead archive. It is an active system, something that can respond. The next morning, Allison stands once more in the control room as the drone glides toward a narrow gap between fallen pillars at the base of Tower Theta. The water there looks thicker, particles dancing in the beams of light. Taking her in, the drone pilot says, slow and easy. The image shakes as the drone eases forward. The gap is just wide enough. Beyond it, darkness opens up. As the drone slips through, the view on the screen changes. Gone are the open streets and towers. Instead, smooth walls rise on either side, covered in regular, repeating patterns. Not marks of erosion or random cracks, but deep grooves and small raised nodes laid out on a grid. Are those circuits? Tom's voice crackles in on the shared link from Boston. Scale's wrong, Hannah says. Each of those bumps is the size of a fist. Macro scale encoding, then. Someone from AI says. A wall designed to store data like a giant drive. Radiation stable, Hannah notes. No dangerous spikes. Temperature rising slightly though, 2 degrees above the outside water. The corridor widens into a larger chamber. The drone's lights sweep across a floor of hexagonal tiles, and a central column rising to vanish into the darkness above. Around the base of the column are ring-shaped devices, each the size of a car tire, half sunk into the floor. Their surfaces are covered with the same circle and line symbol, repeated and varied. On the live link, scientists around the world lean forward. Are we recording at full resolution? Allison asks, though she knows the answer. Yes, Hannah says. Every bit. Allison's tablet vibrates on the console. A new message from Boston. Live drawings update. Multiple children report inside room with rings. Started 90 seconds ago. She swallows. Time sync that, she says. Match the drone's position with the children's reports. On the screen, a clock overlay appears. Drone enters chamber. 09:14:32. First child mentions circle room. 09:15:59. If this is coincidence, Tom mutters. It has a dark sense of humor. The drone glides closer to the central column. Tiny particles move in slow spirals around the ring devices, as if stirred by a current no one can feel. Energy readings? Allison asks. Unclear, Hannah says. Some kind of oscillation, but it's not electromagnetic in any normal band. Could be mechanical, could be something else. I want to rename those rings, says the AI lead over the link. From ring devices to consciousness encoders. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The chair's steady voice cuts in from Geneva. We do not know what they record or broadcast. Children started drawing them before we saw them, Dr. Verma says. Whatever these are, their pattern is already in the kids' heads, or the kids' heads are already in them, Tom says quietly. No one answers. On the far side of the chamber, another archway looms, this one intact. Over it the symbol appears again, brighter here in the drone's beam. Circle, 3 lines. Allison knows, as surely as she knows her own name, that if she closed her eyes right now, she could walk this room from memory, the same way the children do. Humanity has reached an ancient mind, buried in ice and water, and it has reached back. The morning the link changes for good. The sky over McMurdo is a flat gray lid. Allison stands outside the main building, breath steaming in the cold air. The ice field stretches out like a frozen ocean. Wind pushes fine snow along the ground in soft waves. Her tablet buzzes in her pocket. She already knows what the alert is before she looks. Global episode status. Active affected children, 12,417. Average onset time, 07:12 GMT. Neural match index 99.4%. She taps for details. Faces and names scroll past in long lines. Ages from 5 to 16. Countries from almost every continent. The count keeps ticking upward. Big spike, Hannah says, stepping up beside her, tightening her orange parka. We're getting calls from stations all over. It's not just your kids anymore. It was never just my kids, Allison says quietly. We just didn't see the others. Control room? Hannah asks. Control room, Allison says. They push through the heavy door into the warm, noisy heart of McMurdo. Screens glow on every wall. Voices overlap. Scientists, techs, translators, parents on distant calls. At the main console, the Antarctica map is dotted with new markers. The drowned city beneath the ice shows as a faint gray sketch, its central tower marked with a bright circle. On another screen, a live feed from Boston fills half the wall. A group of children, including Riley, sit in a quiet room, sensors on their heads, eyes closed. Beside that, 3 other feeds show groups in Tokyo, Nairobi, and Berlin. Allison slips on her headset. "Tom," she says. "Status?" His voice comes through at once. "They went under almost all at once," he says. It's like the device picked a time and rang a bell. "We've never seen coordination like this." "Any signs of distress?" she asks. "Some," he says. "A few kids panicked at first. Heart rate jumps, hyperventilating. But it's settled. Now everyone looks calm. Too calm, maybe." The quantum system's lead cuts in from Geneva. "The central device increased emission output 20 minutes ago," she says. "Space around it is behaving strangely, but we're not seeing dangerous radiation or big field spikes. It's focused." "On what?" Hannah asks. "You're about to find out," the quantum lead says. On the underwater feed, Drone 9 holds position in the high room. Lights dimmed. The sphere floats in the center, held by its thin rods. Today its glow is stronger, sheets of faint light moving across its plates in smooth waves. A thin haze hangs in the water around it, like fine dust in a sunbeam. "Temperature?" Hannah asks the pilot. "Up 3 degrees since last check," the pilot says. "Still within safe range, but trending." Allison switches to the child feeds. "Riley," she says gently, "can you hear me?" Riley's eyes are closed. Her face looks peaceful. When she speaks, her voice is soft but clear. "Yeah," she says, "we're here." "Who's we?" Allison asks. "All of us," Riley says. "It's crowded, but not in a bad way." "Are you in the city?" Allison asks. "Yes," Riley says, "on the tower, near the top. It's brighter today." In the Tokyo feed, Koji speaks at the same time, in Japanese. The translator's voice overlays his. "We are all in the same place," he says. "It feels like standing in a large hall with thousands of people, but you can only hear the ones you care about." A girl in Nairobi adds, "And some very old people too, but not scary, just tired." Allison glances at the neural dashboard. The deep brain patterns of thousands of children rise and fall in the same rhythm. Crowded, she thinks. They are sharing the same mental room. Device output is locked to their pulse. The quantum lead says, "We're measuring a stable standing wave between the city and, well, everywhere. Everywhere that has kids with the markers," Dr. Verma adds. The chair's voice comes in from Geneva, calm but tight. "We knew this might happen," she says. "We prepared protocols. Dr. Moore, you know what comes next." "Yes," Allison says. "Weeks ago the task force agreed. If a mass event happened, they would not try to shut it down by force unless there was clear harm. Instead, they would listen first, then decide. Give them a chance to speak for themselves," Allison had said then. "And for the device to speak clearly, not just in bits. Now that moment is here. Riley," Allison says, "all of you, we're here with you. We're listening. If you can, ask the city, ask the minds in the device what this is. Why now?" There is a pause. On the drone footage, the sphere brightens. The haze around it thickens, twisting in slow shapes. Then, through dozens of speakers around the world, children begin to speak together. Not in perfect unison, not like a choir, more like a chorus where each voice carries a piece of the same message. "Our time ran out," says a boy in Mexico, in Spanish. "We waited as long as we could," says a girl in Germany, in German. "We hoped we were wrong," says Evan, in Maine. "We were not," says Koji. Their languages mix, but in the task force room, auto-translation systems turn them into a clear, simple stream. "You are at the same crossroads," the children say. "Ice falls, seas rise, fields burn. You argue while the water climbs your doors. Allison's throat feels tight. Your people have skill," the voices continue. "You can change, but you also have fear, pride, greed. So did we. We thought we had more time. We thought our cleverness would save us without giving anything up. A child in Nairobi lifts a hand, fingers moving in a small, helpless motion. "We were wrong," he says, voice thick. On the underwater feed, quick flashes move across the device's plates. Ice shelf collapse, black water, flooded towers, crowds on narrow bridges, shouting. Huge machines emptying shining liquids into the sea, then failing under waves. Images, not just words. "Why did you wait to speak like this?" the chair asks, her voice steady but strained. "Why now?" "It took this long for enough doors to grow," says Riley, "for enough of us to wake up. We needed a net, not just single threads." She pauses, then smiles slightly. "Also, you were busy fighting about whether we were real," she adds, with a hint of dry humor that does not feel entirely her own. Someone in the Geneva room actually laughs, short and startled. "Fair point," Hannah mutters. "What do you want us to do?" the risk analyst asks. "Say it clearly. No more half-shown pictures. For your world," the children say together. "Stop burning what makes the seas rise. You know what it is. You know how. You lack will, not knowledge. Our mistake was waiting until it hurt enough that change came too late." Maps appear on shared screens. Energy use, carbon emissions, sea level rise. They overlay with the device's remembered scenes of their own world's decline. The curves are too similar, but that is only part, the chorus adds. "We also want you to remember, to keep us, so that if you succeed, you do not lose us. And if you fail, the next minds to climb from your oceans will know both of us." "And what do you want with our children?" Allison asks quietly. "Why them? Why not speak to us directly?" "You are too set," says a 12-year-old boy in India, through translation. "Your patterns are hard. You can learn but slowly. The young are still soft. They can hold two stories at once and not break." The words sting, but Allison knows they are not wrong. "Our aim is not to take them," the children add. "We cannot live again as we were. That time is gone. Our aim is to share, so that your children grow with both your love and our warnings. They will still be themselves, just with more." That more scares people, the risk analyst says. They fear losing their kids to some old mind under the ice. "People always fear what touches their children," the chorus says. "They are right to guard them. Good. Guard them. Watch us. Question us. That is how you may avoid making the same hard choices too late." Silence falls in the control room. Only the soft chime of systems and the distant wind against the building break it. So the chair says slowly, "You offer us two things. Warnings about our climate and past mistakes, and a memory library. In return, you ask to continue sharing with our children. To live, in part, in them. Not as masters," the children say, "as teachers. And as stories. Stories can rule people more than masters," the risk analyst mutters. Allison understands his fear. She also knows that every culture already has stories that rule it. Myths, histories, half-true tales of heroes and enemies. This would just be a new layer, or an older one, finally heard. She thinks of the training sessions she has been running, of Riley and others learning to say, "The city showed me this, but I don't have to agree with it." Of kids debating the old civilization's choices like a class project, not a holy text. Maybe that is the key, not cutting the link, not giving it total trust, holding it in the open, where many eyes can see it, many minds can pick at it. "Can you limit what you share?" she asks the device through the children. "Can you hold back from pushing feelings too strong, from trying to There is a pause that feels thoughtful, though there is no sound. "Yes," the children say. "We learn to. We can be gentler. We did not understand your fear at first. We thought you would be glad to carry us. We forgot what it is like to be small and full of loud new things. A small, sad humor in that. A civilization that forgot how scary it is to be a child. Then here is what I suggest," Allison says before the chair or the risk analyst can speak. Hundreds of faces turn to their screens to listen. In labs, in homes, in schools. The feed has long since leaked. Nothing stays fully secret for long. "We keep the link," she says. "We do not try to shut it down, but we do three things. First, we build protections for the children, counseling, education, tools to tell their parents and doctors what they are feeling, what is them, and what might be shared. No more kids left alone, wondering if they are crazy. Second, we build rules around the device. No hidden sessions, no private deals. Everything it shows through the kids goes into a public record. Everyone can see. Everyone can argue. No single group gets to claim it as theirs. Third, we act on the climate warnings, not because some old city told us to, but because our own numbers already do. We let the past add weight to what our own science says, but we don't use it as an excuse to throw away blame or choice. She looks at the chair on the screen. "Give us that," she says. "Give them that. It's messy, it's risky. But shutting this off and walking blind into the same flood is risky too. At least this way, we walk with our eyes open, and our kids know why." The chair studies her, eyes tired but alert. "Risk?" she asks the analyst. He inhales slowly, then nods once. "High either way," he says. "But at least this way, we might gain something from the risk, not just fear." "Ethics?" the chair asks another voice. The ethics lead, a woman with deep lines in her face, speaks softly. "As long as consent is real," she says, "from parents and from children who are old enough to grasp any part of this. And as long as we do not pretend the kids are tools, they are partners. They can say no." The chair turns to the main screen, where the children sit or lie with eyes closed, faces calm. "You heard that?" she asks. "Yes," says Riley. "We heard. Do you want this?" the chair asks. No filters, no soft words, just the hard question. There is a pause. Some kids say no, softly. They want to forget. They want normal dreams again. That choice is noted, marked. Plans begin at once, to give them every help possible to quiet the link without drugs, training them to look away, to shut the door gently. But many say yes, not because it's cool, says Evan, after thinking, because it feels right, like we're already in it, and leaving would be like walking out on your family's story halfway through. It makes the world feel bigger, says Koji, and smaller too, like what we do really matters, because other people already tried and failed. It scares me, says a girl in Brazil, but so does the news every day. At least this gives me something to do inside my head. The chair nods. Then this is what we will do, she says at last. We keep the link with open eyes. We treat the device as a witness, not a ruler. We treat you as messengers, not servants. She looks at Allison, and we put Dr. Moore in charge of yelling at anyone who forgets that, she adds, a thin smile touching her tired face. A small laugh runs through the room. It feels like a release of held breath. So it is decided, the chair says. We will argue over details for years, I am sure, but the heart is set. We choose to remember and to try to change. On the underwater feed, the device brightens for a moment, then settles into a steady, gentle pulse. The haze around it thins, like a sigh. In the child feeds, eyes open one by one. Riley looks straight at the camera. It heard you, she says. It's thankful. That's the closest word. Tell it the feeling is mutual, Allison says, her voice rough. Months pass. The world does not fix itself. Floods still come. Storms still tear at coasts. Some governments drag their feet. Others move faster than anyone thought possible. New energy projects rise, not because an ancient city said so, but because voters in some places and kids with loud voices in others keep pointing at rising waters and old warnings and saying, we see you. We know what happens if we stall. In schools, kids learn about two histories now. They learn standard human history, wars, empires, revolutions, mistakes. They also learn about the Antarctic city, its rise, its fall, its last try at saving its story. They debate both. They compare climate charts. They argue over whether the old minds are honest or shading things to look braver than they were. The device does not answer every question. It shares flashes, feelings, fragments, enough to push, not enough to control. It seems to have learned caution. In therapy rooms and circle groups, Children who carry the markers talk about what it is like to know so much that is not quite theirs. Sometimes it weighs on them, sometimes it gives them strange comfort. You're not alone, Allison tells them. You never were. Your head is big enough for more than one story. Just remember which parts are you and which are just guests. She has learned to do this for herself. Her own dreams have changed. The dark water is still there sometimes. But now when she walks the drowned streets in sleep, she is not a scared child banging on glass. She is middle-aged, tired, carrying a tablet that stubbornly refuses to work underwater. She laughs in the dream when it glitches. In those dreams, she sometimes meets figures she knows are only her brain's way of showing old voices. Tall people in clothes that shimmer oddly. Kids running across bridges that no longer exist. None of it is real, and all of it is true in its own sideways way. She wakes, notes down details, and adds them to the big shared archive. Another tile in a mosaic that will never be complete, but will always be growing. Back at McMurdo, the high room still waits under the ice. Drones come and go. Divers have begun limited visits, wrapped in thick suits, careful never to touch the device itself. They float in the dim water and look up at the sphere, feeling something like awe and something like grief. Sometimes, if Allison stands very still in the control room and listens, she can almost believe she hears a soft, slow thinking in the hum of the monitors. Not a voice, not words, just the steady presence of a mind that learned too late, reaching into a time it will never see. What do you think will happen? Hannah asks her one evening as they watch another dive in the dim light. With us? Allison asks. Yeah, Hannah says. We've got warnings. We've got kids plugged into the past. Do you think we'll actually do better? Allison thinks of the arguments at global meetings, of the protests, the counter-protests, of old industries fighting to stay alive and new ones rising, of families in flooded towns who don't care about ancient cities, only about where to live next year. I don't know, she says honestly. We're slow to change, stubborn, afraid. Hannah snorts. You're bad at pep talks, she says. But Allison adds, we're also good at surprising ourselves, at caring for people we've never met, at learning from pain. We have one big advantage those people didn't. What's that? Hannah asks. We know someone like us, already drowned, Allison says. We can pretend it's just a story. Our kids have walked their streets. Hannah is quiet a long time. That might be enough, she says at last, or not. But it's more than we had before. On the screen, the diver in the high room turns slowly, taking it all in. The sphere floats above, dimming as if settling into a long, patient watch. Far away, in a cluttered apartment, a 9-year-old girl who has never seen the sea wakes from a dream of tall towers under dark water. She pads into the kitchen, tugs her mother's sleeve, and says, we should move. The map in my head says our house will be underwater in 30 years. Her mother does not laugh it off this time. She has seen the news, the charts, the arguments. She looks at her daughter's serious eyes and feels a shiver that is not all fear. Show me, she says. The girl pulls out paper and starts to draw. Everywhere children are drawing, not just the drowned city now, but new cities raised on higher ground, with wide green belts and thick sea walls, and strange, beautiful towers that lean on purpose to break the waves. Old minds watch through them, not ruling, just observing. Maybe hopeful, if machines can hope. In Boston, Allison sits at her desk late, the hospital mostly quiet around her. On the wall is a framed picture made up of dozens of smaller images, children's drawings scanned and stitched into a single print. At the center is the familiar tower and archway. Around it, new shapes take over, bright and messy and human. She smiles at it, tired but real. Once, as a child, she thought her night terrors were a curse, a glitch in her brain. Now she knows they were the faint edge of a very old story, pressing through time into her sleeping mind. She picks up a blank sheet of paper and a pencil. She draws slowly, a city on high ground, wide stairs but no narrow, deadly bridges, open squares with trees, a tower that does not lean. On the side, almost as a joke, she adds a small circle with 3 lines. A guest, not a master. She sits back and looks at it. Memory, she thinks, is not just what happened. It is what we do with what happened. Outside, the world is still hard. The ice still melts. The seas still rise. But beneath those seas lies a city that refused to let its story die. And above, in bedrooms and classrooms and hospital wards, a new generation carries that story in their heads, not as a chain, but as a guide they are free to argue with. The past is awake in them. What they do with it is still unwritten.